Tom.
You're moving up.
Wow, look at that, yeah. I bet you I'm still last on roll call. Right.
Now you are until.
Oh, then it's,
Yeah. Or someone.
I happen
Or someone.
or someone else will be voting for someone else. No. Tell me this.
But we have to vote.
Yes, of course. I won't oppose it.
Let the record reflect we've reconvened with all members present. For those who are able, I invite you to join us as we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, we're recognizing anybody this week.
I have a motion for the executive minutes of April 26, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And a motion for the regular minutes of April 26, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, corrections, or changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome all. Beautiful evening. And just a few comments before a proclamation. I want a big thank you to Council President John Hoover, who presented the proclamations at our last council meeting, and then filled in for me at the annual Arbor Day celebration, presented proclamations, so thank you. And while I was away, I did miss Madison Green Clean and Wet Day. But I want to thank all those who braved the weather to give our downtown a nice spring cleaning. And this past Saturday, I attended the memorial service for Councilman George Hayman. As you know, he passed on December 8th. The eulogy was delivered by his wife, Reverend Lauren Auckland, who pointed out that George would often introduce himself as the Mr. Reverend Lauren Auckland. She shared George's love of Madison and what an honor it was to serve on this council. And while he only served one term, he left behind a major body of work as he led the committee that planned the new public safety building and the renovation of Harley Dodge Memorial. So it was really an honor to remember George and his impact on Madison. And then for our Employee of the Month of May is Patrolman Alex Cardenas from the Police Department. On April 27th, Alex was traveling to work on Route 287 South when he saw an overturned vehicle. Although the car was leaking fluids, Alex still approached the car to check on the driver, who was unconscious. Despite the risk to his own safety, Alex helped another officer get the driver out of the car and into safety. And because of his brave actions, the driver was safely removed from the car and given a necessary medical attention. The officer who Alex worked with to get the driver out of the car was a Jersey City deputy chief who wrote Chief Misha a letter complimenting Patrolman Cardenas' exceptional service. And we have a big anniversary coming up on May 11th this week. Chief Lou DeRosa in the fire department will be celebrating his 40th anniversary. And just as a Drew update, which I periodically give at the meetings, I received a letter last week from Wildlife Preserves. And this is, I'll just cover parts of it. Wildlife Preserves enthusiastically adds our voice to the almost 15,000 individuals and dozens of municipalities and environmental organizations that support the continued preservation of the Drew Forest in its natural state. Preserved land in New Jersey is constantly under threat for development, intrusion by utility companies, and encroachment by neighboring property owners. It takes tremendous amount of dedication and significant resources to fend off these threats over time. And the stewards of the Drew Forest have done consistently since the university was founded in 1867. Go on to say that Drew Forest is a vital part of our ecological complex that includes the Great Swamp National Wildlife Refuge, the Troy Meadows Preserve, as well as Drawley Farms Preserve and the Wanaka Reservation. The exceptional quality of the habitat restoration done at Drew Forest, particularly within the Zuck Arboretum and the Hepburn Woods Sanctuaries, the 53-acre habitat offers outsized benefits to the university, community, and beyond. And then they wrap up, as much as we were saddened to see any open space develop, it is almost incomprehensible to imagine for a space like the Drew Forest. This is particularly true for the Hepburn Woods and Zook Arboretum, which have been lovingly restored, tended over the last 14 years for the maximum benefit of native flora and fauna. This Herculean effort represents tens of thousands of labor hours by students, faculty, and volunteers. So we appreciate their support for our efforts. And I'm going to come down below and ask Rocco and Gino to come on up. And this is a great honor to present this proclamation recognizing Rocco and the family as a whole for your service. I certainly remember the first time I met you. I'm sure you don't remember the first time you met me, because it was when you had just opened Pizzeria, then known as Frank's Pizzeria on Park Avenue. And if my memory serves me right, the pizza was $1.75 a pie. It had the coupon on the box that if you collected 24 coupons, you got a free pie. And that was a big thing for the Conley family with the 11 of us. And since I was on the younger half of the family, my first taste of Frank's Pizzeria was actually only the crust, because that's what was left when it came to me. But that was still, it was the best crust I ever had, and eventually got to eat the whole slice, which was even better. But I remember standing in line with my father in that tiny place. It basically was takeout only, with a counter, your stove, and the line going out onto Park Avenue. And you have grown and invested in this community and have become such an integral part. And you're, as a Rotarian, you are truly service above self. And I remember during Sandy, the pizza truck trailer out there serving those families that had no food at home or had no kitchen to cook in. So I will present this proclamation in just a second. One other last thing is, it was mentioned in the article that at one point there was the 4 stores, and another thing I remember the box was the listing the stores: Madison, Summit, Morristown, and Sweden, which I guess is where Encino. I missed that one, but I do remember Sweden being on, which I think was where Frank went off to, right? So here on behalf of the Borough of Madison, proclamation. Whereas Rocco Iosa was a teenager when he emigrated to the United States from, I can never say this, from Italy. Yep, thank you. In 1960, he almost immediately opened Madison's first pizzeria on Park Avenue with his brother Frank. And whereas, although Rocco barely spoke any English, his commendable work ethic and determination led him to owning 4 pizzerias from Summit to Morristown within a few years. And whereas not only did Rocco's successful career begin with that first pizzeria, but his family also started there when he met his first wife, where he first met his wife. Let me read that correctly here. Sorry about that, Rocco. Who was a customer waiting in line for a slice. And whereas Janet and Rocco were married for 58 years and successfully worked together for 40 years at Rocco's restaurant on Cook Plaza before they retired. And whereas the couple had 5 children, Joseph, Rocco Jr., Angela, Salvador, and Gino, who were always around the family restaurants with 54 Main and Madison Market, keeping up the Iosa tradition alive in Madison. Whereas Rocco has a long history of giving back to our community and beyond, with his involvement in Madison Rotary, Taste of Madison, charitable bocce tournaments, and providing hot meals to New Jersey residents who were affected by Hurricane Sandy. And whereas Madison's landscape will look different without Rocco's namesake restaurant, which is operated by 3 generations in the Iosa family: Rocco, his son Gino, and Gino's son Christian, have served multiple generations of Borough residents.
Now therefore, I, Robert H. Connolly, Mayor of Borough of Madison, on behalf of the governing body, hereby recognize the contributions of Rocco Iosa Sr. and his family in Madison for more than a half a century. We thank him for his hard work, good food, respectful service, and wish him health, happiness, and lots of relaxation and bocce with families and friends.
Thank you so much.
You guys stand there.
I will accept this without honor. I thank you very much to the Mr. Mayor, to the Borough Council. Thank you. To me, Madison is the best town in New Jersey. It wasn't easy, but it was easy. Just be honest and work hard. I love Madison. I love all of my customers. I thank you them. Without them, I couldn't have done what I did. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And for those watching at home who may not have seen that, there was a standing ovation, well-deserved. And Rocco, again, I know you will not be a stranger, but thank you so much for everything you've done. Gino, thank you. Enjoy your next phase. We will now move on to reports from committees. Community Affairs, Council President Hoover.
Thank you, Mayor. From the Downtown Development Commission and Director of Business Development, the Downtown Development Commission will hold its next regular meeting on Thursday, May 18th at 7:15 p.m. in the Hartley Dodge Memorial Building, Committee Room, second floor. The public is invited to attend. It's an open meeting. The Madison Farmers Market will open on Thursday, May 25th for its 31st season. The market will again be held at Dodge Field from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock. The season continues through November 16th and will feature live music weekly. The Madison Avenue Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Development Commission have partnered with the Madison Public Library on a project called Story Walk, an innovative and delightful way for children and adults to enjoy reading and the outdoors at the same time. 18 businesses in the immediate downtown area are hosting a page of our Story Walk book, The Curious Garden by Peter Brown. The storybook page is displayed in the storefront windows and will be in place from April 29th through May 13th. Those readers participating in the Story Walk will advance from business to business, reading The Curious Garden as they walk through our vibrant downtown. A custom Google map has been created so the public can follow along. From the Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber is accepting nominations for this year's Extra Mile Award, an initiative to recognize and celebrate individuals who have provided excellent customer service in our community. Nominations are open to everyone in the community, and we encourage residents, business owners, and visitors to nominate individuals who deserve recognition for their outstanding service. For more information, please visit madisonnjchamber.com. Ladies' Night is scheduled for Thursday, May 11th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. Madison Community Arts Center. Starting on May 11th, the gallery will feature works by Madison High School students in the Advanced Placement Visual Arts program. There will be a reception from 5 to 7 p.m., and the art will remain on the walls until Monday, May 15th. Gallery hours are posted on the MACA website. Spotlight Kids will present their production of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown from Friday, May 18th through Sunday, May 21st. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And With Finance Borough Clerk and Public Works and Engineering, Ms. Ehrlich.
Thank you, Mayor. The Tax Collector's Office reminds property owners that they have just a couple days left to make their second quarter property tax payments. The payments must be received in the tax office by 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday, May 10th. And as a reminder, the tax office is now located on the second floor of Hartley Dodge, along with the finance and utility billing departments. The clerk's office announces that in anticipation of the June 6th primary election, the clerk's office will remain open for late-night voter registration on May 16th, 2023 until 8 p.m. Applications for vote-by-mail ballots and voter registration forms are available in the Borough Clerk's office or online at morriselections.org. And early voting will take place in the courtroom at the Hartley Dodge Memorial from June 2nd through June 4th. In the Finance Department, the Finance, Utility Billing, and Accounts Payable staff are working on purging old paper records. While we continue to perform more and more functions digitally, the Borough does continue to generate paper records and documents. The state publishes strict records retention schedules, and the staff are working diligently with the clerk's office to identify what records should be purged. This project should be completed in the next few months. An update on our joint meeting solar project. As many residents know, Madison and Chatham Borough operate a sewage treatment plant known as the Madison-Chatham Joint Meeting. It is one of the oldest shared service arrangements in the state. Borough councils from both municipalities meet monthly to help guide the management of the plant. The joint meeting recently issued a request for proposals for a solar developer to design, build, and maintain a solar PV array on the plant property. The joint meeting and developer will sign what's called a power purchase agreement, or PPA, where the joint meeting agrees to purchase all the solar electricity generated at the site. And in exchange for installing the solar system, the developer gets the payment from the joint meeting, along with solar renewable energy credit payments from the state, and an investment tax credit from the federal government. Since the plant currently pays about 11 cents per kilowatt hour, they're expecting that the PPA electric rate will be lower, thus generating savings for the operation of the plant and the residents of both towns. The DPW reports that they worked on supporting the Madison Green and Clean Day, which was a big success despite the rain, and the DPW will continue to mulch all the other areas and parking lots over the next few weeks. They are very pleased with the new radio, the trunked radio system that was installed. It was a big project that was announced at our last meeting, and the DPW finds it to be a big improvement. They're very glad to be connected by radio to the other departments in town. As we know, Madison got quite a lot of rain, I believe almost 6 inches over April 29th and 30th, and our storm sewer stations all ran well with very few problems. However, Dodge Field flooded for the first time in a long time, and they had to manually pump down the field and walking track to restore the field. They're working with Little League and softball and Zach Ellis on planning the games and rainouts, and that is going smoothly. Finally, the Environmental Commission wants to give a quick wrap-up on the Madison Green and Clean events. There were numerous events that weekend. Groups invited to table included the compost pickup service, Java's Compost, the Native Plant Society of New Jersey, Drew University's sustainability team, and Toadshade Wildflower Farm, which held a native plant sale on the veranda of Hartley Dodge. The plant sale was a huge success with 275 orders and very little to back up afterward. Also represented tabling at the event were the Climate Action Committee and Sustainable Madison Advisory Committee, as well as Wind of the Spirit, Immigrant Resource Group, who came to speak about environmental justice. Rain necessitated the postponement of the Madison-Chatham yard sale, which was held this past weekend on May 6th. It had a great attendance. Nearly 90 families signed up to host sales. And also on May 6th, native plants from the Great Swamp Watershed Association sale were picked up in Madison. We were joined by Florham Park for the first time, and orders for the two towns together totaled 1,850. And collectively, over 15 towns purchased 25,000 plants. The sales success depended on teams of volunteers who assembled, sorted, and transported the plant orders to pickup sites. The reason this is so important is because native plants, unlike imported and exotic varieties, support our insects and caterpillars that birds depend on to feed their young. As I like to say to my son, no bugs, no birds. That's all for this week, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Utilities, Mr. Landrigan.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, from the Water Department responded to an 8-inch water main break on Myrtle Avenue near Ridgedale Avenue. The break was excavated, repairs were made, and services restored within 3 hours. Okay, now, from the Electric Department, due to the severe weather conditions, which Rachel had mentioned earlier, the standby crew on Friday, April 3rd, 28th, was called out to 196 Green Avenue for a wire down across the roadway. It was determined to be a communications wire and was removed from the street. On April 29th, the crew was called out to 58 Hillside Avenue for a large limb hanging on the wires. The crew cut the limb and removed it. On April 30th, they were called out to 82 Prospect Street for a downed wire blocking the driveway. The crew removed the line from the pole and driveway. On May 1st, they were called out to Center Street to perform emergency markouts for a gas leak. The crew has been stocking all materials needed for the planned shutdown and pumping of the pumping stations and pumping out of the manholes this weekend, and the department repaired the lights in front of the MRC on Ridgedale Avenue. Okay, now, a little more information. A lot of questions have come up about the time use of electric rates. The administration of borough staff have been working with the time of use electric rates. This type of rate structure has been adopted by many electric utilities across the country, and we have talked about it at various council meetings. The idea is that customers would pay more for electricity when it is more expensive for us to buy it, and they would pay less for the electricity when it is less expensive. There are a couple of important points. First, the goal is to be revenue neutral. While we're doing this to encourage residents to use the electricity during off-peak times, this will help reduce the stress on our system and reduce costs. Second, this will be a voluntary program. Residents that want to stay with their current rates can do so. We get calls every day from residents that have electric vehicles asking if we have time of use rates. Third, it will probably be close to the end of the year before we are ready to implement it. Right now, we are testing the electric meters to make sure that it is working. Discussions will also happen with the Utility Advisory Committee and other groups that wish to comment and learn more. We hope that this information on the bills will be changed by the end of this summer so that residents can see their consumption broken down between peak and off-peak hours. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Public Safety, Mr. Range.
Thank you, Mayor. From the Police Department, the Madison Police Department and its school resource officers, along with the Community Relations Unit, will be assisting the Central Avenue School with its bike rodeo on June 5th. Topics covered will be bike safety and checking each bicycle to ensure proper operation. Any questions on this upcoming event, please contact the Community Relations Unit at 973-593-3034. The Police Department will be jointly hosting the DARE graduation at the Madison Community Pool on June 6th. DARE students consist of all 5th grade students from all the elementary schools in town. The DARE program has been ongoing in the school district, taught by certified police officers for over 20 years. We look forward to celebrating this great accomplishment of our students. And on May 18th, there will be an anti-bullying and cybercrime presentation given to the Madison Junior School students and parents in the auditorium. The presentation is given by the Morris County Prosecutor's Office in partnership with the Madison Police Department and Project Community Pride. And nothing from the Fire Department tonight, so thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Health. Alan Goody.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing significant to report at this meeting, except that Sunday night there was a shutdown in the Central Business District by the electric company of power, and the Board of Health was actively supporting the businesses that might have some risk by losing power for anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. And from what I have not heard, there was not any issues with that, and everybody was back up and running in the morning. So kudos to the electric utility and the Board of Health for supervising that downtown. That's all.
Thank you. Communications and petitions.
None received, Mayor.
All right, we are now on to our first of two invitations for public comment. This one is limited to items on our agenda discussion or resolutions that are part of the consent agenda, and I will outline both of those. If If you want to comment on any other topic, including the ordinances for introduction, we'll need to wait for the next comment period. And there is no ordinances for hearing tonight because we didn't have the requisite full 2 weeks in between meetings. And these are the two things you may comment on. We have the council vacancy appointment. And then was not originally listed on the agenda, it was the solar carport financing that we will outline in a presentation, so you can understand that. And these are the resolutions you may comment on, and these will also be part of the consent. Resolution 145, which is an addendum to our development agreement with Walnut Street LP, and this is increasing the maximum contribution from the borough from $2 million to $3 million. I want to go into detail on this at a far greater level than I normally would, because obviously this is a major resolution here. So while this resolution increases our commitment to the project to $3 million, the net impact on our Affordable Housing Trust Fund will be $1 million, as the project is receiving a $2 million federal grant through the work of Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill. We had actually earmarked $2 million from the trust fund for the project. So again, we will in the end only be using $1 million instead of the $2 million we had earmarked. And while the passive energy standard construction has added cost to the project, it will set a new standard on how we can build housing in a changing climate. The statement by Congresswoman Sherrill upon the announcement of the grant truly outlines what a special project we have, and this is from the announcement. This funding will be used to construct 44 rental apartments for low and moderate income families on 2 contiguous sites. The project will feature an enhanced energy initiatives such as dedicated solar panels for each unit, triple glazed windows, heat pumps, extra insulation, a specialized energy efficient appliance package, and other features resulting in the project certification as one of the first multifamily affordable housing projects development in New Jersey meeting passive house net zero energy standards. 6 of the units will be set aside for special needs and homeless families. It goes on to say the project sites are within walking distance to resources including education, recreational areas, public transportation, grocery stores, and the commercial district. So this is truly an outstanding project, and in essence, with the support for the passive house construction, net zero, we are getting through the federal government, we are putting in $1 million in order to get a grant for $2 million, so a very net positive. And so that is Resolution 145, and here are the rest of the resolutions, which I will not go into the same level of detail. 146 is a fill in the blank that we will be naming the member to fill the vacancy on the council until the next general election. Resolution 147 is awarding contract to Weeds, Inc. for control and removal of invasive species at the recreation complex, and this is not to exceed $1,916 and funded through Ordinance 21-2019. Resolution 148 is award certain non-fair and open contracts over the bid threshold. This includes Byram Labs for monthly AMI reading fees, estimated $55,000, Invoice Cloud for online payment processing, estimated $50,000, and Spatial Data Logic, known as SDL, Building and Engineering Department for permits, licensing, and other, that's not to exceed $85,000. Resolution 149 is approving raffles license for the Morris County Retirees Education Association Philanthropic Fund. Resolution 150 is a special event permit for Cars and Coffee Showcase to be held on Kings Road on Thursday, June 1st, hosted by Sunday Motor Company. Resolution 151 is confirming membership of Thomas Kiernan and Ryan Sickinger in the Madison Hook and Ladder Company number 1. Resolution 152 is ratifying appointment of summer interns, Finn Collier, Stephen Hefferman, Dean Cozzolino, Dominic DiVincenzo, and Luke Dennison, all at $16 an hour. Resolution 153 is approving renewal of livery owner's license for Madison Limousine Service. Resolution 154 is the bond ordinance. This is the tied to the bond ordinance we're going to hear shortly about for funding the carport. And Resolution 155 is authorizing Mayor to execute a contract with New Jersey Department of Community Affairs for the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program on behalf of the Borough of Madison. This is required by the state. So you may comment on any of those resolutions or the two agenda items. If you want to comment on any of those, please step forward. You state your name, address, write the same on the clipboard, and the agenda item that you are commenting on.
My typing skills are faster. All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Jason Loeffler. I reside in James Place, Madison. This is my 24th and one-half year here, and it's a pleasure and honor to be with Madison. The reason why I'm here is to speak to you regarding a couple times. And this is the first time I've been able to do this. So I sincerely hope that we'll see my words here tonight and are able to be at least consider these concerns. An immediate reply is not necessary. What is critical, however, is that you devote some time yourselves.
But what right now it's the agenda, one of the agenda items.
Yeah, this is concerning the solar panels.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. I missed it.
Reclaiming my time.
Yep.
All right. All right, so I sincerely hope that you receive my words here tonight and they're able to at least consider these concerns. An immediate reply is not necessary. What is still confounding me today after many years examining the feasibility of electric cars, electric vehicles, and solar power specifically. First, an electric vehicle costs tens of thousands of dollars more than a standard fossil fuel car. Also, there are many concerns that I and my friends and neighbors have in our community, and a few of which I want to bring your attention tonight. First, 80 to 90% of all electric power comes from combustion of fossil fuels. The balance comes from green energy, including solar, wind, hydro, nuclear. Nuclear, by the way, is by far the cleanest and safest form of energy there is today. My father, Lou Loeffler, invested his entire life in energy production with PSE&G and later with the North American Electric Reliability Council in Princeton. To consider this, a standard mid-sized vehicle battery weighs about 3,000 pounds or more, lasts less than the life of the vehicle, costs $20,000 to $30,000 to replace, 100% not recyclable, and is made of entirely rare earth materials except for the plastic that comes from the oil. That oil must be mined and manufactured using heavy equipment that is entirely fossil fuel dependent. 3, every time you operate an EV, one must first get moving that additional 3,000 pounds to maintain the speed of the vehicle and to stop the additional weight before moving the weight of the vehicle itself, its passengers, and also recharging times are significantly longer than time needed in refueling a standard fossil fuel vehicle. Compared to the weight of a fossil fuel storage tank for the same size vehicle, it holds about 24 gallons of fuel, including the 30-pound aluminum tank altogether weighs a mere 170 pounds and travels a significantly greater distance. One other point, in fact, 60 to 70% of all cobalt mined required to make green energy batteries in the world currently comes from the Congo of Africa, where a percentage of labor is provided for by indentured servitude and child labor, and none of it is eco-sound or safe for the individuals mining by hand. Now, please consider the following. Wind turbine blades and solar arrays only work when weather is conducive to the unique needs, weather, wind, and sunlight. Also, cold weather conditions and batteries do not function well in cold climates for months every year. As a 24-year resident here and of Morris County my entire life, I too am a great proponent of living cleaner, recycling, and cleaning up our community, including being an active member of the Whitman Watershed Action Committee. I and my family, friends, and neighbors love our community. We are support in any way that we as individuals can facilitate living clean lives and preserving our environment. I sincerely ask that you will devote some time in studying and understanding these points that I present to you and try to find answers.
1 minute.
Find answers to real questions, the same questions many have asked me. If you are unable to respond here due to time, I ask that you and your colleagues discuss this before spending millions of taxpayer dollars on things that will not make our world cleaner, least of which in Africa or China, where socialist dictatorships do not care how their citizens mine these minerals. Sincerely and respectfully.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to comment, please step forward.
Hi, Kirsten Wallenstein, 4 Westerly Avenue. Also commenting on the solar carport. We've had solar panels for, I should really know this, but 12 or 13 years, and they work great. And we really enjoyed the fact that not only are we using cleaner energy, but we're also, on certain days where we're not using a lot of energy, giving back to the grid and helping keep peak energy costs down. So in fact, when we have more solar and things like municipal solar carports, it not only helps our capacity charges and helps us save money because we're generating the solar in our town, but it also reduces our transmission costs because we're generating it right here, so we don't have to pay those extra charges. Solar works great in cold weather. Yes, sometimes it's cloudy and doesn't work, but when it is hot and those solar panels at the carport are out on MRC, it will keep the cars nice and cool, so hopefully people won't idle, and it'll keep our athletes in the clean air. And so I just want to thank the council and everyone for supporting this great project. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to comment on the agenda items? Seeing none, I close this part of the meeting, and we move on to our agenda discussions. Our first one is the council vacancy appointment, which I'll quickly outline and remind people of the process that, as you know, Deb Cohen resigned her position, and as it works in New Jersey, the party that in partisan elections such as Madison, the party that controlled the slot nominates 3 names to the council. The council reviews those 3 names and makes a recommendation, and it's voted on. What we asked for from the 3 candidates that were selected was to submit resumes, which were reviewed, and I will ask Council President John Hoover to make a comment and a nomination.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, we received 3 excellent candidates for the replacement. Denise Katz, Joe Bavachik, I pronounced it correctly?
Very well.
And John Ford.
I left it up to him for that one.
And John Ford. I would like to nominate and recommend John Ford for the replacement.
We have a nomination for John Forte. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any council discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. I heard ayes from all. Congratulations, John Forte. This is, as Council President Hoover did mention, we had 3 very strong candidates. I have had the pleasure to work with John Forte on the planning board for past 12 years and have witnessed his dedication to Madison, especially in some particular incidents where he really stepped up and addressed a difficult situation. He will be a tremendous asset to this council, and the one negative thing is he will needs to step down from the planning board because we can only have 1 representative from the governing body outside of the mayor. So thank you, and John will be here at this next meeting to take the oath of office and hit the ground running. And again, thank Denise and Joe. Thank you for stepping forward. And now we'll move on to solar carport. This is related to the ordinance and resolution we have on the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll focus on a little bit on the project and mostly on the finances. Michael, if you'll advance to the next slide. The MRC carport, you've seen this image before. It'll generate about 850,000 kilowatt hours of electricity, which equals what 95 homes will consume in a year. There's no tree trimming for this project. It'll give shade, as was mentioned, to the MRC visitors, and there will be an online portal for educational purposes that will, people can look and see what's being generated. Next slide, please. Back in November 2022, we talked about steps. First step was approving hiring an energy consultant to help us. Talva Energy was hired on November. We had a courtesy review in front of the planning board on January 12th, 2023. Then at the most recent two council meetings, April 10 and then April 26, we had certain code changes that occurred to the borough statute or codes, lifting the KW cap and modifying so there could be virtual net metering. Tonight, we're discussing the funding process, and then the next step immediately after that would be issuing of the bids. And so next slide, please, Michael. Rough financials, I've done this a couple of different ways. People want to geek out, I have a spreadsheet later on if you want to, but I'd rather keep it simple. The purchase price is $2 million estimate. The federal incentive, which is a direct pay, recent new payment that a not-for-profit or a government entity can receive, is supposed to be will be 30 or 40% of the cost. It depends on how much of it is American-made, and we'll be determining that through the bid process. So that is estimated with a $2 million purchase price. That's a federal incentive or revenue coming in of $600,000 to $800,000. Electric capital, we have appropriated over multiple budget cycles, $1.3 million of reserve for a sustainability project, and I'm asking council that we appropriate those dollars to this project. New Jersey Board of Public Utility solar renewable energy credits will be, we're anticipating about $107,000 a year on average over 15 years for $1.6 million in revenue from the BPU over the 6-year period. So if you just kind of add the federal incentive and the BPU SRECs, we're basically covering the cost of the facility right there. There's avoided electric costs. We're going to be getting electricity from these solar panels as opposed to having to buy it. And the solar carport is estimated to generate 850,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. The borough will save about $88,000 a year on the electric bill. That'll be the electric bill for the MRC, but also other facilities via virtual net metering, likely this building and public safety. And the borough will also save, as was mentioned, about $12,500 a year on our capacity and transmission costs. Next slide, please. So if we just look at 20-year high level, we're going to put aside the sustainable project money that we have from the electric utility and just look at revenues and expenses. We anticipate a $2 million cost to purchase and $90,000 of OEM over 20 years for about $2.1 million. Revenue and savings, about $600,000 for the federal direct pay, I'm assuming a lower amount, $1.6 million in SRECs, and then over $2 million in avoided electric costs over 20 years. That does assume solar degradation. It does, and it assumes no increase in our utility costs for a total estimated revenue and savings of almost 4.3 million. So you can see that over a 20-year period, we're really going to, it's going to be a tremendous benefit to the borough just financially, taking away any of the environmental benefits. And the solar system should continue to generate electricity for another 5 or 10 years. The OEM expenses will certainly increase after 20 years, and the cost of removing the system is not included. However, decommissioning could be paid for by the revenues that are generated out in the years 20 to years 30. Could easily, just a couple years, cover the decommissioning costs. The next slide, we're not going to get into it, but just proof that there's a spreadsheet out there to show everything. And you can play around and put a utility rate escalator in there, change the solar degradation factor, or how much is being produced, or the purchase price, and alike. So just want to let you know that we did go to that granular detail. Next slide, please. Administration's recommendation is to advance a bond ordinance this evening. And in order to publish the bid, we need to recommend, or we're recommending the introduction and funding ordinance with the following terms. $1.3 million, as we discussed before, will come from the Electric Utility Sustainable Project Reserve, and then $700,000 will be authorized in debt. We're just not going to issue those bonds, but we need to say we have this money set aside because New Jersey purchasing law requires us to do that so we can go out to bid. There are multiple other sources of revenue, but the likely one is that we're going to get that federal subsidy or payment, that direct payment for $600,000 to $800,000. So we'll never have to issue this debt. So tonight's bond ordinance is to authorize the debt. We're not actually going to be issuing it. So timing going forward. Next slide, please, Michael. The next step would be going out, once the bond ordinance is passed and we go through an estoppel period, we can receive bids. We're going to probably go out to bid before that because we can do that. And then sometime in the middle of July, we hope to get those bids back and have real understanding. Is it $2 million? Some people are saying it might be less. There's a little bit of a lull right now in solar development because there was a prior program called the TREC program for SRECs that had different guidelines, and so there was a really big push to do solar. So in actuality, the Board of Public Utility increased the solar renewable energy credit that we would be eligible for by another $10 because solar's a little slow right now. If that's the case, we may be able to get even better pricing than $2 million. But there's a lot of questions with supply chain issues. There's a lot of steel for the solar structure, for the carport structure. So we'll get a better understanding of pricing. Then during this time, we'll be able to confirm the federal dollars and how we get them. And then we'll come back to council and say, looks like everything's a go, we want to execute a contract. So council will get another opportunity to vote. There'll be another discussion. It'll be out there one more time in the public realm. Immediately after that, we'll confirm the SREC dollars. We've been talking to the Board of Public Utility, but this is a little bit of a unique situation that we're a municipal electric utility that's doing virtual net metering. But if all goes well, we can be awarding a contract in late July and construction could start in the fall. As I said before, supply chain issues could delay some of that, but that's our hopeful timing. And I want to just flip to the next slide and talk about some other related issues. Bob really covered the time use rates great. This information is written down there, so I'm not going to repeat what Bob wrote or what Bob said in his presentation. And then Rachel mentioned the joint meeting solar. So it's really interesting that Madison's involved right now in 2 solar projects. One where we're purchasing it, which is similar to what Tom did at his warehouse where he purchased the system, and another where we're doing it through a power purchase agreement because with the joint meeting we're partnered with Madison and Chatham instead of doing issuing or having to purchase or outlay the money ahead of time, as Councilwoman Ehrlich explained. It's being done through a power purchase agreement. So it's very exciting times in that regard. So what I really want to emphasize is, though we're authorizing the debt, I see no way that we're actually going to have to issue the debt. It's just so we can go out to bid. It's just one of these purchasing laws that you have to have. You have to have the money appropriated. If the federal dollars were a grant, and we had a grant agreement from the federal government saying we're going to give you $700,000, this is already awarded like we do with DOT roads or like we do in other situations, we wouldn't have to do the bond. But because it's it's almost like we're going to have to fill out a tax form. Like you have to do to get your tax credit on something, we're going to have to fill out a tax form after the project is done and get the money. So I just wanted to spend a few moments and explain why we're in this unique situation. I'm trying to decide, Mayor, this may be my first bond ordinance. so it's unique, but anyway, well, we did do the refunding bond, but that's kind of boring.
I was going to say, so is this a James Bond?
Oh, wow, yes. You'll be here all week. so anyway, so I'm here to answer any questions that you have. And
Bob?
Yeah, Jim, so in reality, This is pay now and profit later type of situation where we've appropriated the money, which comes from different buckets in town, the 1.3 million. So you have to pay some money up front, but then over time, and you go back a bunch of slides, you'll see it, over 5 or 10 years, you're going to get that money back plus some.
Correct, yes. If we go back to my spreadsheet, this doesn't take into account the 1.3 million that we're putting into it.
Right.
It just shows that even without we're just putting the 1.3 million in so we can pay for it now instead of borrowing. But if you look at it, you can see by year 7, we're already in the plus.
Yeah.
And then by year 20, we've covered all the expenses, and we have benefited $2.3 million. So it's just going to be something that's going to really benefit us.
Right,
over the
and
long
in
term.
reality, this is the way Madison has always done its business. It's always looking forward, meaning what's a good thing to do now, and you don't cut yourself short now, and then down the road, things pay off. Like, look, we always take care of our roads even a little bit before they need to be, plus it saves us money in the future. And this is not only going to save money, we're going to, profit later, let's say.
It's very much a pay-as-you-go mindset, which
Yeah.
we've had for many years.
Tom?
Is the cost of all the consultants sufficient?
Yeah, it is. So it is for the most part. We have consultant fees that we have for multiple, the engineer that we have and everything else. So that's in the budget as a separate budget line. So we should, if you want to, add $20,000 to $30,000 for what they've done for us in this documentation and everything. But they're going to be with us throughout the entire process, through construction and everything else. And they'll actually be paid by the developer when all is said and done. So we paid a little bit of upfront money to them to get the ball rolling, but if we accept the contract, then the developer ends up paying.
So, for clarification purposes, one of our residents talk about the electricity and what purpose. For this particular carport, it's primarily to cover the electricity usage by our home facilities.
Correct.
It's worth empowering people by homes, which they can do whatever they want to with the electricity. This is for us to cover the MRC, the electricity that this building uses, which is already being incurred. And then also the public safety, police and fire.
Correct.
I should just leave it on.
It will power that microphone, too.
I should just leave it on, and it will power the microphone remotely. So it's we're already consuming this electricity. It's not like we're adding any specific services, but if we change out the HVAC system to something that needs electrification, it's going to help us in lieu of taking natural gas out of the ground to actually, facilitate ourselves to heat the building.
We are a member of PJM, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, is a regional transmission organization. It's a quasi-government entity that manages the grid in our area. And there's multiple generation in there. There's renewable, there's combustible. Nuclear accounts for a significant amount of the generation that's there. And, when we going kind of switching gears to time of use, our consumption is like this, nuclear is like this. If time of use flattens our consumption, in theory, we could be consuming or using more nuclear energy. But PJM generates, I believe it's about 40% of the energy that's consumed in New Jersey is nuclear.
Fantastic.
Eric?
Just a question. I know we're going to go into more detail on time of use rates, but you had mentioned that the time of use rates will be voluntary. Is that the concept is it would be voluntary for a pilot program, and then at some point we might convert everybody?
I think that's to be determined by council. We had talked about the possibility of having owners of electric vehicles register their vehicles. The weakest part of our distribution system is actually the transformer right outside your home. It's not our substation. though it's getting older and we have a reserve when that needs to be replaced, but the size of our substation isn't the issue. The size of the wires on the poles isn't the issue. It's the actual size of the transformer outside your home. So if there are 3 homes that are serviced by a transformer and all 3 of those homes get an electric vehicle and it's a hot summer day and they all plug in, that transformer is going to overload. So we were at one point looking to have should we have a voluntary registration of EVs so we can understand it? With our meters and with this time of use rates, we assume that a lot, if not all, the electric vehicle owners are going to just voluntarily choose to select time of use rates. That'll be able to help us more easily identify them and more easily identify points on our distribution system where there may be weaknesses.
Okay, great. That's it.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Jim. And again, reminder, so we have ordinance 33-2023 and resolution 154 on the consent agenda. And this is so we can actually go out to bid, but anticipation is that these bonds would never be activated.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully.
The
All right. Now move on to ordinance of a hearing, which, as I stated before, there are, since we had less than the 14 days in between meetings, ordinance 28 and 29, which are introduced at the last meeting, will have a hearing or have their hearing scheduled for May 22nd. So we're now on to our second of 2 invitations for public comment. This is when you may comment on any topic. Again, same rules apply. Otherwise, step up to the lectern, state your name, address, write the same on the clipboard, and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, but we give you a 1-minute grace period. Anyone wishing to comment, please step forward.
It's my special night.
Yes.
I write my name again, right?
Yes.
Okay, Kirsten Wallenstein, 4 Westerly Avenue. And I'm here representing Friends of the Drew Forest. I just want to give a quick update, although I know the council and mayor and everyone is aware, but just for the public as well. The mayor mentioned Wildlife Preserves has endorsed our the Land Preservation Organization concept, and they are, now we have 15 environmental organizations supporting preservation of the forest. Mountain Lakes has joined our list of environmental commissions supporting the conservation sale concept, and we also now have 7 municipalities that have passed resolutions in support, and our latest is Caldwell Borough. So lots of growth, lots of good news, and as always, we thank you all and Mayor and the council for your support as we continue on. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten, for the update and the work.
All right, I don't want to be a curmudgeon here. I just want to ask some simple questions, and I appreciate your time again, Sir, ma'am.
State your name and address again.
Jason Leffler, James Place, Madison. All right, so again, don't have to answer this now, but I would ask that we find out where are all these rare earth materials coming from when mining in America has been stopped because of a moratorium on the same. This happened under the recent administration. What happens to the used solar panels after they've been depleted? They're not recyclable, so I presume they're buried in the ground in someone else's backyard. Again, these are real concerns. What percentage loss of electric production is lost when the array is not cleaned from debris, snow, ice, leaves? I don't presume someone's going to be up there sweeping it off. Maybe there's a part-time job there for somebody. Again, real questions. Have we considered that only 8 hours or so a day when these solar panels are going to be producing energy? Because the other half of the day is dark nighttime. So it's just, we need to answer these questions before we invest millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars in this project. And also, how much fossil fuels are required to manufacture these panels? To mine the rare earth materials, as I mentioned earlier, also to form the steel that's going to be used to hold these up above the ground. and expose them to the sun in one direction. Now, some solar panel arrays do adjust electronically to the sun because the sun is, it varies about 20 degrees throughout the year. So the optimum angle, I'm sure that the studies will show where that is, and it will be arrayed in that direction. But again, just a few questions, and I appreciate some follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I close this part of the meeting, and just a quick comment on the solar panels. Obviously, we are not the first nor the last to invest in solar panels, and so it's, you know, very much a change in industry and direction that the world has to go as we wean ourselves off of fossil fuels. And it is true that when they're covered with snow, we're not generating power, but right now we're not generating any power from solar. So every sunny day is a bonus day with solar panels. So may we now move on to introduction of ordinances. Will the clerk please read the statement?
The ordinance is scheduled for first reading, have a hearing date set for May the 22nd, 2023. All will be published in the Madison Eagle, posted on the bulletin board, and made available to members of the public requesting copies.
I call up ordinances for first reading and ask the Borough Clerk to read said ordinance by title. Ordinance 30-2023.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison amending Chapter 94 of the Madison Borough Code entitled Electric Utility to update the electric connection fee schedule.
Mayor, I move ordinance 30-2023.
Second.
And this ordinance, along with the next two, are ordinances we do on an annual basis. Again, just updating the connection fees, and this is the fee paid by new development, and it's calculated based on our capital investments that have been paid for by our prior ratepayers. So, any other comments? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Range?
Yes.
Mr. Harlan Pudis?
Yes.
Ordinance 31-2023.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison amending Chapter 190 of the Madison Borough Code entitled Water to update the water connection fee schedule.
Mayor, I move ordinance 31-2023.
Second.
Any council discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Range?
Yes.
Mr. Harlan Pudis?
Yes.
And ordinance 32-2023.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison amending Chapter 155 of the Madison Borough Code entitled Sewer to update the sewer connection fee schedule.
Mayor, I move ordinance 32-2023.
Second.
Any council discussion? Roll call vote.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Range?
Yes.
Mr. Harlan Pudis?
Yes.
Ordinance 33-2023.
Bond ordinance to authorize the construction of a carport with roof-mounted solar panels at the Madison Recreation Complex in, by, and for the electric utility of the Borough of Madison in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $2 million to pay the cost thereof, to appropriate electric utility reserve fund monies, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriations, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
Glad I didn't.
There we go.
Well,
Good job.
Thank you.
Wow. Ordinance, Mayor, I move ordinance 33-2023.
Second.
Any council discussion? As we just covered this. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Range?
Yes.
Mr. Harlan Pudis?
yes.
Ordinance 34-2023.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $100,000 from the General Capital Improvement Fund for the MRC basketball pickleball court construction project.
Mayor, I move ordinance 34-2023.
Second.
And this is additional funding as the bids came in above the budget, and so this will be fully fund the project. Any further council discussion? Roll call vote.
Go ahead, Mayor. I just want to comment that I'm glad that at least the borough still stands behind the project. You know, there's a lot of community anticipation for this adult recreation. It's recreation for anybody in the borough, but so it's unfortunate that the bids came in that much higher. It seems to be a trend now
Yeah.
with a few things that we're bidding, but it's good that the borough's supporting this.
Any other comments? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Range?
Yes.
Mr. Harlan Pudis?
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda resolutions. Will the clerk please read the statement?
Consent agenda resolutions will be enacted with a single motion. Any resolution requiring expenditure is supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any resolution requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All resolutions will be reflected in full in the minutes.
Mayor, I move Resolution 145-2023 through 154-2023.
155, we added the,
155-2023.
which has been posted. And just on Resolution 146, again, please update your resolution by inserting the name John Forte as the appointee. Any discussion or any that need to be pulled?
I think I need to second this, first of all.
So, yeah, thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any that need to be pulled or discussion?
So I just want to comment, Mayor, on, well, a couple of things, if you don't mind. I have to say something right before we go home. So Resolution 145, 2023, authorizing the additional funding for the affordable housing development. I know that the council, prior to me, Mayor, the administration put a lot of effort into this, and the support from the state is tremendous. The developer seems to be right on point, and we got very generous funding from the federal government through a congresswoman, which is fantastic to make this a reality. It is very expensive. Like you did point out before, it is the state-of-the-art affordable housing for the state, if not for the country. One thing that we have to keep in mind is that as we continue to do more affordable housing, if this is our new benchmark, it's going to be very challenging for us to continue to offer this to any more developments in the borough. Can we do it? I don't know. I'm sure that we'll creatively try and stay on this track, but it is offering the residents in this affordable housing complex more than a lot of people even have in their own homes, which is good for the borough at the end of the day. So that's just my comment, that we have to keep that in mind, how we develop more in the future and how we could pay for that and get more money from the state and the federal government.
Appreciate it. And if without the $2 million that Congresswoman Cheryl was able to acquire for us, the conversation might have been different, but being able to do that really make it something we'll be proud of. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Range?
Yes.
Mr. Harlan Pudis?
Yes.
Okay, there is no unfinished business. Approval of vouchers. Will the clerk please read the voucher totals?
Okay, from the current fund, $1,336,966.63. From the general capital fund, $51,712.15. From the electric operating fund, $97,752.08. From the electric capital fund, $14,055.39. From the water operating fund, $1,808.46. From the water capital fund, $59,275.64, and from the trust, $1,815.96. The total is $1,563,386.31.
Mayor, I move payment of the vouchers.
Second.
Any discussion, questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ms. Ehrlich?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Range?
Yes.
Mr. Harlan Pudis?
Yes.
All right, under new business, I'd like to announce the following appointment that does not require council confirmation. Is the Planning Board, Carmela Vitale, a relatively new Madison resident. Borough Avenue, Class 4 member, unexpired term through December 31st, 2025. This is Tom Harris, who has served on the Planning Board for extended time, has now moved out of Madison. So we appreciate Carmela stepping forward. And with that, can I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting tonight, Mayor.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you all.